Fashion has existed as long as we have had civilization. It is a product of whichever values dominate in a particular moment in time. It reflects the spirit of the age that people live in. But the processes involved in generating trends are now more complex than ever. If you still think you're not a fashion victim, look at the clothes people wear in videos from the 60s, 70s or 80s and ask yourself how many of those people are not victims of the fashion crimes of those eras.
I'm Zendaya and welcome to Beauty.
By the decade, let's get started. Okay, so, what am I doing?
With people working from home and staying indoors more, many industries have seen unprecedented struggles, but some have experienced a boom. One such is food ordering firm JustEatTakeaway.com, where online orders have surged. The European company said Wednesday it had received 46% more orders in the third quarter compared to a year before. That's up from an increase of 32% in the first half of the year.
This new research defines class not just in terms of money, but in terms of your social and cultural capital as well.
In the survey, people were asked how many friends they had and what sort of people those friends were. Were they chief executives or cleaners, teachers or postal workers? That was to assess their social capital. As for cultural capital, people were asked if they used social media like Facebook, if they went to the gym or played sport, and what kind of music they like listening to. Or perhaps they're the kind of people, wealthy, well-connected, who spend their leisure time eating out in places like this, or going to museums and the theatre.
The new study has identified 7 classes. At the top, there's a small, very wealthy elite. At the other extreme, there's a larger group, dubbed the precariat, with very little money or social life or cultural life. In the middle, the old-fashioned working class has shrunk. They're mostly found in the old industrial areas of Britain. Then there's a new class, emergent service workers. Vicky's one. She's a newly qualified solicitor with student loans to pay off. People like her have little money, but lots of friends, a busy social life, and the highest cultural capital of any class.
Lockdown has deprived parts of the country particularly hard. Now, research by the Institute for Fiscal Studies suggests that in England it's widened the education gap between the richest and poorest primary school children. It shows that during the pandemic, the richest 20% of pupils were spending over 6 hours a week more on educational activities compared to the poorest 20%. One head teacher told the BBC it'll take nearly 2 years to close the gap.
Mealtimes bring everyone together, and rules about what can and can't be eaten are one of the things that define a faith. Particularly the rules about animals. Which ones is it okay to eat? In Judaism, if you follow the kashrut religious laws, all food must follow the kosher or pure rules given in the Torah. Jewish people can eat most kinds of meat, but the animals must be prepared in a special way, which leaves no blood left in the meat. And dairy can't be cooked alongside meat. Some Jewish people have 2 sinks, 2 fridges and 2 sets of plates. One for meat, one for dairy, so there are no mix-ups. Some types of meat are totally forbidden, including anything from pigs. No bacon, pork, ham, even some gummy sweets. Yeah, seriously, some contain pig. Fish, with scales and fins, salmon, haddock, massive sharks are fine, but shellfish are a no-no. Muslims also have food laws called halal, which means permissible or allowed. The preparation of the meat is similar to kosher. No blood allowed, and pigs too are out of bounds. Hindus believe in reincarnation, so are reluctant to eat meat. They, or those they love, could have been an animal in a past life. No one wants to accidentally eat Aunt Sally. So most Hindus are vegetarian. To Hindus, some animals are sacred. The tiger, the elephant, the horse, but most famously, the cow. Hindus can take milk from cows, but to kill one is a terrible crime. In fact, in India, cows are free to walk wherever they please, across roads, into the market, up trees if they could climb, and no one is allowed to stop them. Buddhists believe all animals are important. Some think animals' lives hold a similar value to human lives, so refuse to eat meat. Doing so will bring bad karma, and no one needs that. Of course, there's far more to belonging to a faith than getting the diet right, but it's good to know, especially if you're friends with people with different beliefs. You don't want to serve them something they can't eat. So, wherever we are on our journeys, hopefully this has been food for thought.
By 2050, the world's population could approach 10 billion. And around 60% more food could be needed to feed everyone. Interest in vegan food has been booming across the rich world. A major study has put the diet to the test, analysing an imagined scenario in which the world goes vegan by 2050.
If everybody went vegan by 2050, we estimated that the food-related greenhouse gas emissions could be reduced by 3/4.
That comes up with a very stark conclusion. They just say they expect real household disposable income, which is basically the sort of best way of how we measure how people feel about whether or not they can afford their lifestyle, whether they've got any money left at the end of the month. But they expect it to fall this year at the fastest rate since comparable records began in the 1950s.
Yeah,
Just
I mean, this
think
is the biggest
about that for a moment.
Is it too easy for people to sit back, not do a lot, and earn not a huge amount less than if they went out and went to work every day?
I think the drivers of more people, depending on the state, are just very evident. We've got an older population, we've got a sicker population, we've got more people out of work. If you are in work, if you're fit and able to work, we've got a very low unemployment rate. So most people who are able to are working, and they're working pretty hard. We've had a few big shifts in policy that have pushed the dependency ratio up. So we've got the tax-free allowance, so more people can keep more of their earnings as they move into work, which I think everyone would say is a good thing. So the drivers of this increasing dependency ratio are pretty well known. The question is, what do we as a nation do about it? The biggest thing we can do is grow our way out of that, which I'm sure you'll come on to.
Is it a case of if you're not happy at work, you'll be rushing to get out the door? As I say, I mean, I reiterate my point as well. You say, loads of teachers that have retired earlier. I would say that they've probably got very decent public sector pensions, which is why they've probably taken early retirement.
Well, it's not going to be that decent if they're not working all the years to earn that pension.
Well,
and thank God the unions fought to get them a good pension.
Public sector pensions, actually, they really are. When you start comparing them, A, to how they're funded, which is direct from the taxpayer, B, to how the percentage is in terms of employer contribution, I can tell you, when it comes to pensions, one of the
lowest in Europe.
Well, there you go. You tell me, who do you agree with?
Have been urged not to stockpile, but if scenes like these filmed this morning are anything to go by, the message isn't getting through. Items like toilet roll, hand sanitizer and pasta are now increasingly hard to come by as coronavirus-linked panic
MySpace is regarded as the platform that influenced social networking as we know it. In 2003, the California-founded website exploded in popularity when hordes of students gravitated towards the novel idea that staying connected with friends was possible without having to leave the house. Not long after, in 2004, a new player stepped into the game and dethroned MySpace, and that was Facebook, an instant hit with university students in North America, putting likes, comments, and pokes on the map, but more importantly, normalizing photo sharing and network visualization as we know it. The rest, well, they say it's pretty much history. The emergence of social apps began to roll out at a steady pace. In 2005, we said hello to YouTube. In 2006, Twitter flocked to the scene. 3 years later, messaging platform WhatsApp found a secure place on our phones. In 2010, we were introduced to filters thanks to Instagram. We found the thrill in short-lived content thanks to Snapchat in 2011, embraced bite-sized content in 2012 with Vine, and became the music video star we've always dreamed of in 2017 thanks to TikTok. According to WeAreSocial.com, there are close to 4 billion social media users today, which comes as no surprise when we are all social creatures, as proven in the 40% increase many of these apps saw the first weeks into quarantine. It seems that we may have our social bases covered for now, but as we continue to scroll, swipe, and tap to stay informed and entertained, our imaginations can only continue to run wild as it once did for our social historians.
Look, I acknowledge that we have gender-neutral toilets here at GB News, which I have to admit I hate. I know the men don't really like them either. So I'm wondering who or what is behind this shift that is making both men and women feel really uncomfortable. Why are we pushing this direction of travel? I can't imagine a trans man would feel comfortable buying tampons in a men's toilet. What will obviously happen, seeing as they're free, is that men will take these products home for their wives, girlfriends and daughters. I'm all for inclusivity, but perhaps the reality is that employers are scared the number of tribunals involving discrimination towards transgender staff has more than doubled from 4 to 9 in 2021 to 2022. Now, although that is a small number, it is still rising. Surely, the obvious solution is to have a men's toilet, a women's toilet, and a gender-neutral one. The reason why these sort of facilities are separated is for the safety of women from biological men. This is getting so tiring.